Year 10. In this video I want to show you how to do questions involving inverse proportion as opposed to direct proportion that we did last time. And two quantities are inversely proportional to one another if, when one of them increases, the other decreases. So it's slightly less obvious than direct proportion, but a good example might be the time taken, for example, for a group of people to complete a task. So, for example, the time taken for people to paint a wall is inversely proportional to the number of people that are helping with the task. If you have more people, the amount of time will go down because, of course, they can all join in and help. So that's an example of inverse proportion. Another one might be speed and time taken. So if a car travels faster, a greater speed, the time taken to complete its journey will go down. So that's another example of inverse proportion. But I'm going to show you how to do some where all you've got is an x and a y, and we're going to use that proportion symbol that we used last time. So here goes. Okay, so here is an example. We've got that y is inversely proportional to x and y is equal to 6 when x is equal to 10. Then the question is to find an equation connecting x and y. So these are a little bit like the direct proportion questions that you had, except for the word inversely. Now we're going to start in a similar way to what we did with direct proportion. So you use the proportion symbol. Now y is proportional to x, but this time it's inversely proportional. And the way that we show inverse proportion is by putting 1 over x instead of just x. So a direct proportion question would have y is proportional to x. Inverse proportion question has y is proportional to 1 over x. And like with the other questions, we can replace that with an equation, and this time we can replace the 1 with a letter k. So we can replace it as the equation y equals k over x. So that's the start of our equation, but that's not very helpful unless we can find the value of x. And in this question, what we need to do is to find that value. So we're going to do like we did before. We're going to replace x and y with the two values that we've got here. So we can see that y is equal to 6 and x is equal to 10. And on the top of that, I've got the unknown value k that I want to try and find out. So 6 is equal to something divided by 10. We need to do the opposite or inverse of divide by 10, which is multiply by 10. So if we multiply both sides by 10, we're going to end up with 6 times 10 on this side, and we'll see what we end up with on that side. So 6 times 10, 60, and on the right hand side, if we multiply that by 10, all that does is that the 10 disappears here and we end up with k. So we found k. K is equal to 60. We can now rewrite the equation. So the equation becomes y equals, and we can now put instead of the k, 60 over x. And that's your equation. That is your answer. Now, when you're doing them on the sheet that I'm giving you, you're going to have to write y equals 60 and then a slash like that to put divide. Sorry, you can't quite see that. Okay, here is a second example. So this time y is inversely proportional to x, as before, and y is equal to 4 when x is 25. We've got two parts to this question. A, we've got to find an equation connecting x and y, and B, we need to find y when x is 5. So you did some a bit like this on the other sheet that you had to do. So let's do part A here. So part A, y is inversely proportional to x, so y is proportional to 1 over x. So that bit does the inverse proportion. Then you write it as an equation, y equals k, some unknown value, over x. Next step is to find the value of k. So you then replace the y with the 4 and the x with the 25 in the question. So 4 is equal to k over 25. Now we can use just a bit of simple arithmetic to work out what k must be. If we multiply both sides by 25, this side the 25 will disappear. This side, well, let's see what happens then. So times 25. Multiply that side as well, times 25. On the left-hand side, 4 times 25 is 100. And on this side, k over 25, k divided by 25 times 25, the 25 just disappears and we're left with k. So we've worked out that k is 100. Rewrite your equation now. So it's y, go back to this line, y equals k, which is 100, over x. That's my equation, so that's my answer to part A. Part B, we now use that. So the equation that you've got here, I'm going to use it in part B, y equals 100 over x. And I'm going to work out, find y, when x is 5. So this time I'm only replacing the x, and I'm going to replace the x with 5. Substitute in the 5. So that's 100 over 5. Now 100 over 5 means 100 divided by 5. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So y is equal to 20. Okay? Now I'm going to add in a part C, because some of the questions you've got on the sheet you're going to do have also got a part C, and that is to this time find x when y is a certain value, and in this one it's when y is equal to 2. So we've also got to find x. We're going to use the same equation. I didn't rub it out so you can still see the equation. So that is the equation that we found when we were doing part A. And we're going to use that in the same way that we did before. So y is equal to 100 over x. This time we're going to substitute in the value for y. So y is equal to 2, which is on this side. So 2 is equal to 100 divided by something. Now you might just be able to spot what that something must be equal to. So 100 divided by something equals 2. You might be able to just guess. But if not, a little neat trick you can do that you may not have seen before is whenever you've got a fraction here and something on the other side, you can just switch over these two numbers. So I can swap the 2 and the x. Really neat little trick. So x is equal to 100 over 2. And 100 over 2 means 100 divided by 2 is 50. So x is equal to 50. So when you come to do the questions where you have to find x, you need to do just a little bit more rearranging to be able to do it. So I hope that helps you. Hope you managed to do the sheet all right. And I'll see you next time I do a little video then. Bye.